Hey everyone, I'm the Wanderer, and today I've got a review for you of a weapon that I just received last week, a weapon that I truly can't be more happy with, the Danish war axe from Arms and Armor. My axe sports a large Petersen type L axe head, which is easy to distinguish by the upper horn, which thrusts out further than the popular type M head, making this style of axe an efficient thrusting weapon and a devastating cutting weapon. From horn to horn, the cutting edge on this axe measures approximately 9.5 inches. The axe head itself measures approximately 9.5 inches from the center of the haft to its longest point. And this wicked 3-pound 1050 carbon steel axe head sits atop a 53.5-inch ash shaft. This particular version costs $425 plus shipping and is hand forged in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a 4 to 6 week production time. I've only owned this axe for about a week, and already it's my favorite weapon in my collection, and undoubtedly the most deadly weapon in my collection. So I'm going to score this axe on a scale of 1 to 15 as usual. So let's take a look at it and see how it stacks up. Thanks to the Battle of Hastings and the Bayeux Tapestry, the Danish war axe is one of the most famous weapons of the Middle Ages. Despite its Scandinavian roots, this long axe became popular throughout Northern Europe, and though we don't have many examples of a complete axe with haft, we can draw on period art, such as the Bayeux Tapestry, and ample examples of large, well-preserved axe heads to determine whether or not this axe is a good representation of what we may have seen in the 10th and 11th century. Given the historical examples of this type of axe that are found in period artwork, in addition to originals that have been found, we can say that the dimensions on this particular axe are pretty close to what they may have been on a historical original. Now, some of you may have seen a review given on the Arms and Armor Danish war axe with a Type M, a Petersen Type M head, that was done by Skolagrim on his YouTube channel. I'll link that video below, but one thing that he notes is the incredibly thin cross-section on this particular axe. That thin cross-section is one way that we can determine this axe was used primarily as a weapon meant to cut flesh, rather than a tool meant to chop wood. Skolagrim also points out that in many Viking-era axes, there would have been a thicker diamond cross-section at the blade due to the fact that many historical examples that have been found have a carbon steel blade welded onto the iron axe head in order to make for a stronger edge. That certainly is indeed the case. However, there are examples of axe heads that are relatively thin without that diamond cross-section. Additionally, there's mention of an axe in the sagas which is hammered out to the edge to make for an excellent cutting blade. I'd also like to add that given the better quality and affordability of modern steel, there's really no need to attach a thicker carbon steel edge onto an iron head. Does this take away from historical accuracy? Yes, to an extent, but no more than any other modern replica using higher quality modern materials. The haft on this axe is made of ash, which is certainly true to some originals. The head itself is attached to the haft using the wedge technique, in which the head is placed on the haft from the top and a wedge is hammered into a split in the wood in order to spread the wood, holding the head in place. This is certainly one of the techniques that we know of that were used during the era in which this weapon was popular. It's also likely that hafts on the original weapons were created using a process called riving, in which the haft was split and shaped from a log, rather than sawed, thus ensuring that the grain followed the haft in a straight line from top to bottom, making the haft much stronger and less likely to break. Given the fact that you can see full growth rings on this particular piece, I don't believe that this is the process used by Arms and Armor. I'm pretty confident based on how much I looked around at different axe makers that this particular axe by Arms and Armor is about the best representation that you're going to get of a historic original in this price range. Given that fact, in addition to the fact that the main flaws in terms of historical accuracy have to do more with the modern materials that were used, in addition to the questionable haft making process, I'm going to go ahead and give this axe a 4.5 out of 5 in terms of historical accuracy. It's unfortunate that we don't know a lot about Viking fighting styles, but based on stories found in the sagas, we can make some assumptions as to what a weapon like this may have been used for. Obviously, this would have been a weapon used for cutting, and from a distance, you can get in some devastating blows and do devastating cutting damage against a lightly armored opponent, or perhaps an opponent that doesn't have a shield. Additionally, with that upswept horn, this is going to be a thrusting weapon that you can harass your enemy with from a distance in order to wait for an opening to appear in which you could either thrust or cut in order to injure your enemy. In fact, there's a story in one of the sagas in which a warrior uses that upswept horn to stab his enemy in the throat and kill him. Additionally, with the downswept horn, you're going to be able to latch onto a shield from behind, pull the shield back, and use that opening to either thrust or cut against your opponent, injuring or killing them. Based on that, and based on my cutting tests against water bottles and wood with this particular axe, I would say that it performs the functions of a historical original incredibly well. Let's take a look. In cut tests on water bottles with stock sharpening, this axe cuts almost as cleanly as my Albion swords, and the steel rings like a bell. It came with a nice convex grind that isn't razor sharp, but just right for holding an edge despite some abuse. I'd also like to add that the haft's rectangular shape aids in edge alignment, which can be difficult with an axe, especially on side cuts in which the weight of the axe head pulls the head down. In addition to slicing through bottles, I was shocked at how easily this axe sliced through wood. At first, I tried a limb that was about as thick as my thumb. I didn't put a lot of force into my swing, preferring to let the blade do its job, and it sliced through that limb like butter. Then I took it up a bit to a limb that was about the size of a pop can, maybe a little bit bigger than a pop can. And again, I didn't apply a lot of force. I wanted to let the blade do the work. Now this is a green limb, I believe it's locust, but I was still very impressed with how deep the blade sunk into the wood with very little effort, and the limb was on the ground in 3 swings, despite my horrible aim. I apologize, it was actually 4 strikes. I'd also like to note that there was no visible damage to the blade of any kind, no rolling, no scratches, no nothing. It was absolutely perfect. Based on the performance of this axe, I'm confident in saying that it is without a doubt the deadliest weapon that I own. And in terms of functionality, I'm going to give this axe a 5 out of 5. So Arms & Armor makes hand-forged weapons that are truly works of art. And this axe head is absolutely no exception to that rule. The satin finish is absolutely stunning. You know, I love the way that it reflects light, and it almost looks as if it changes color depending on the way that you hold it into the light. The head itself is almost perfect. The lines are perfect. For a hand-forged piece of steel, this is a work of art. You might say it's pretty simple for a work of art, but it is indeed a work of art. Now, if you've seen Skallagrim's review of the Petersen Type M version of this axe, you'll already know that there may be an issue with the fit between the head and the haft. I think that they did a little bit better on this one than they did on the one that Skallagrim reviewed, but it still leaves just a little bit to be desired. Let's take a look. Now, as you can see, the top of the haft is very rough, and on this particular axe with such smooth lines and sharp edges, that rough finish really sticks out, and it almost looks as though someone just forgot to sand it down. Additionally, there's a slight gap between the haft and the front of the eye, which Arms & Armor filled with a small wedge. Functionally, this is perfectly fine, but aesthetically it could certainly be improved. Now this isn't a huge deal, as I can clean it up myself or maybe even make my own haft, but a slight improvement on this would match the price of the weapon. And in terms of fit and finish, I'm going to give this axe a 4.5 out of 5. So overall, I'm going to give this axe a 14 out of 15. I absolutely love it. Like I said earlier, it's become my favorite weapon in my collection. And I've wanted one for a long time, at least the version that has the Petersen Type M head. And when I got with Arms and Armor and found out that they make this axe with the Petersen Type L head, I absolutely had to have it. The Type L head just looks mean. It's my favorite axe head. And I'm confident that against a lightly armored opponent, man or beast, so long as they don't have a gun, I would come out on top with this particular weapon. So check it out at Arms and Armor. I'll post their website down below. You can also get it on Cult of Athena. Actually, you can't get this version on Cult of Athena because you do have to ask for the Type L head, but you can get the Petersen Type M version on Cult of Athena as well. You all know their website. If not, I guess I'll post it down below. But anyway, this is a great axe. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave some comments if you have some suggestions for future videos. Talk to you later.